Ron and Ty?
Tyler will be here.
She's not coming? Okay.
I haven't heard of the, Madam Chair.
As soon as Ron comes, we can get started. Ayanna, we'll start as soon as Councilman Brewer comes.
William, did you say?
Yes.
Okay, the budget meeting for 2021 will now begin. We're going to start with, we're going to take these out of order a little bit because Ayanna Wright from the Fire Civil Service Commission has to leave. Her husband's ill. So we will start with you, Ayanna, Fire Civil Service.
And as everyone comes forward, would you please state your name,
Please,
introduce yourself?
And Madam Chair,
Yes,
and if we could have everyone just state that everyone in your department is in compliance with the city's residency ordinance. It won't apply to every department, I recognize, but as you come up and it does apply, please note whether there's anyone in your department who's out of compliance with the council's
oh, in
residency
terms of
ordinance.
residents.
Thank you.
Does not apply.
It won't
Okay.
affect her, right, but just for everybody's sake.
Ayanna Wright, the administrator for the Gary Fire Civil Service Commission. Do I have to say something else? There's no changes based on what you returned to me unless we got something new I didn't get.
No changes were made to the Fire Civil Service Commission's budget. It's the same as 2020.
No changes for the Fire Civil Service Commission. So $45,000 is it.
That's my salary.
The operating budget.
The operating budget is the
Okay.
same. And the salary budget is the same too.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have, okay.
Do we need,
So is there anything that,
no, we had requested, as we do every year, for the commissioners to receive a stipend, and I know that they didn't, but we just always put it in the budget just in case something miraculous happens and we're able to get that. Thank you.
There was no miracle this year.
I know. So noted.
Civil service.
You
What
have
was
any
the amount of
questions
the
of me?
stipend? What was the amount of the stipend request?
They were getting $300 a quarter,
A quarter, so $1,200 a year for how many members?
6.
Okay. So $8,400 a year? I think I'm off in my math. $7,200 a year.
Yes,
Okay,
okay.
thank you.
yes. And if you decide that you would like to, I'm sure they'll be overjoyed. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Then we can, if there are no questions for the fire commission, then we can go to the police department.
Humble apologies. Did you have anything?
You should have two.
I think she was going to the next person.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, we're going on to the police department.
All right,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, council members. I'm Katrina Walker, Fiscal Operations Manager for the Police Department.
Good afternoon. I'm Deputy Chief Michael Jackson for the Gary Police Department.
Deputy Chief, can you take your mask down so I can see you? Okay.
Sure.
I don't know.
I've only been around 31 years, but okay.
What is your name, Deputy Chief?
Michael J. Jackson, Sr.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. I'm here today in place of Chief because he's out ill. This is first for me where this process is concerned, so I'm not that familiar with it. But I just recently went over this in the past couple of days with Ms. Walker, try to familiarize myself with this process. But I heard you ask earlier about any changes of the party before me. There were, in fact, changes to the police department's budget. The initial one I got on Monday stated one thing, and the one I got on Tuesday was something different, of course. And if you have any questions of me regarding them, I'll attempt to answer them.
And I can speak to their budget
Go ahead.
as well. Yesterday, last night, when we had our meeting, I indicated that the city has to cut, is expected to have a shortfall of close to $3 million in terms of revenues that we expect to receive in 2021. As the council members know, the majority of the budget itself lies in the public safety area. In order to accommodate cuts of that magnitude, what we did was transfer patrolmen and firefighters, and the police chief will speak to that when he gets up, to Fund 463, which was the income tax. There were already individuals, already patrolmen and firemen in those two funds, in those two departments, but we increased the number of positions in those funds to reduce the amount in the general fund itself. So that's the change that the deputy chief is speaking to, where we reduced the amount in Fund 101-250, and we had to similarly reduce the amount in Fund 101-290, the fire department. But they'll speak to that when they come up, the fire department will.
Fund 463. Okay.
That's toward the back of your budget.
I see it, yeah. Okay.
Yes. Councilwoman Brown, I got what, Fund 463? That's a fund that you all just made, or it's been in existence?
It's been in existence. When the county started to collect county income taxes, a certain portion of it went to public safety. So initially, the city had, I think, about 10 officers, if I'm not mistaken,
That's correct.
in both funds.
15, was it?
And now we have increased that number. The reason why we have been able to do that is over the years, we've not used all the money that we actually collected. So we have kind of a, I'll say a reserve, if you want to call it that. So we were able to move people from 101 general to those two. Yes. Mhm.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
so what's the savings from the general fund now since you have done that?
We had about, like I said, just about $3 million that we needed to cut. With the cuts in public safety and everywhere else that we were able to realize savings, we're about at $700,000 that we still need to cut, maybe a little less. And we believe that we'll be able to actually make that cut through the spending levels that we have been having through this year. Our spending has been reduced, primarily through COVID. So by the end of the year, we believe that we'll be that much, we'll have not spent that much in our, we'll have that much savings in our 2020 budget that we'll be able to reappropriate for 2021. So right now, we believe we'll be able to make that cut without any difficulty at this point.
Okay.
I have a couple questions, so you can go ahead.
And Madam Chair, I'd like to ask the deputy chief, can you give us a breakdown of what the roles of the captain, the lieutenants, and the sergeants, these positions here? I'm looking at the budget sheet, and I only see 2 captains here. So I would like to know what's their roles.
Correct. The captain divided the two. One served as the head of the patrol division, the other the head of the investigative services. The lieutenants control the day-to-day operations for those divisions that they're assigned to. Now, all of the lieutenants are not assigned to a particular division. Some actually work outside of the city with the task force that we have to assign all to. The same thing applies to some of the sergeants. Most of them, we were trying to move inside to work in investigative capacity to get as many patrol officers as we can out in the field. And mostly the sergeants, being at that assignment, are classified as supervisors. So they serve as the supervisor in this return or any particular district that they're assigned.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chief.
Any other questions for,
I do, Madam Chair.
yes,
A couple questions. The first question, this may be both for the police department personnel as well as our chief of staff. What has been the overtime spending to date for this current year? And are we projecting, or do we project, what our overtime will be or may be going into next year's budget?
Okay, as it relates to the overtime, it's my understanding that we in the past, we spent up to $1 million, sometimes over overtime. That's the fact that we're so short where our personnel is concerned. In order for us to get the number of people out in the field to address the concerns of the citizens on a day-to-day basis, we have to pay officers overtime in order for them to stay over and be done with that. That's what we're feeling as where the overtime is concerned. But it's gonna get to the point, and it's already getting to, where the officers are actually just getting burned out just by working overtime in addition to their regular term. And we just don't have the personnel to put out in the streets. I mean, we've had days where we've had as many as 5 cars in the streets because we have to double up the guys, so we're short on vehicles as well. And 5 cars covering the whole city is just unacceptable. We really need to do something about increasing our personnel as far as the police department is concerned, because we're really hemorrhaging. You got numerous retirements coming up for what we've already experienced this year. And on top of that, with the retirements, other agencies are hiring, and they have all these incentives, and the guys are just running out of here like houses on fire. So we're really having a issue with the police department.
Thank you.
so how many officers do you currently have?
Right now, I think we're sitting at 157, I want to say, after the most recent retirement. And, as I stated earlier, they're spread out among the different divisions that we have to have manned within the department. If we could have all those people in patrol, it would be great. But we got other divisions that we have to have covered, so that's worth manpower. And that's why I'm in the process of switching as many of the patrol officers. We have some people who were assigned as patrolmen, but working in investigative capacities and so on. But we gotta get those people out and put these supervisors inside and have them perform those functions. And keep as many of the patrol officers as we can out in the field.
So you,
Counsel.
I'm sorry.
May I add something? Councilman, when I discussed the budget with Chief Evans, one of the things that he emphasized was just some of the very things that the deputy chief indicated. So when we put the 2021 budget together, we tried to take into account, one, what he thought his overtime needs might be for 2021 based on his ability to hire new officers, how long he thought that might take, which will take a long time. So we had to put enough overtime in for that. We also tried to leave some openings so that they could add additional officers, not a whole lot, but some, as well as replace whoever might be retiring, and then take into account whatever the operational needs are. So we tried to balance all of that and coming up with a 2021 budget. It's probably, well, I know it's not ideal, but it's probably as best as we could come up with, given all of the things that we had to take into consideration.
So this, I'm trying to flip to it. So how much are we budgeting for overtime for 21?
I think it was 500,000 in 254, and the money that you had allocated in the COIP for, I think it was an additional 350,000. So would that give us a total of 850,000?
Okay, so we're saying 850,000 has been budgeted, and you're saying that year to date, we've spent about $1 million?
Actually, totally, I believe it's 850,000.
For next year.
Yes. Well, that's what's predicted for next year.
So you're predicting 850 for next year. From January 1 to today, we're saying we've already spent roughly 850 in overtime?
I think
Above that. So we'll probably be well over $1 million by December 31, right?
yes,
Okay.
And we covered that with vacancies.
Okay. Okay. So my only question, I guess, would be is if you reach that point where you have run out of money in order to continue operations, what do we do? What's the contingency plan?
And you mean for 2020?
For 2020 and I guess 21, if we
Well,
don't budget enough for
We,
it?
we tried to make the adjustments in 2021 in advance of the need, if you see what I'm saying. 2020, we're going to have to come back and move monies from vacancies to cover the overtime.
Makes sense. And last question, vehicles. I know that that's a complaint I get from a lot of police officers. Where are we in terms of ordering them? I know that there have been some vehicles purchased for executives from the police department, and I won't harbor on that now. But, you know,
I'm not familiar with any season vehicles from our portion. That will come from 463, 461, which is the income tax fund. That comes from machinery and equipment, that's where that will come from. But I normally, if there's anything purchased, that's the part that I handle, and I have not seen it that come across me.
so Attorney Colvin, the Ford Expedition and the Ford Explorer, out of what fund were those purchased?
462.
And where is that?
That's
This
not in their
line?
budget.
It's not here.
And with regard to the police department's car needs, we're looking to do another lease purchase as we've done before with Ford Motor Credit. So that is in progress, as I understand it now, based on the conversation that I had with the chief. So I can't tell you when the delivery is. I can certainly get back to you with that date or let you know more details. I'll put it that way. But we have identified funding for that.
So the Ford Expedition and the Ford Explorer in 2020, I got to go back and look at 2020's budget, came out of a line item that does not exist in 21, right?
Do you have Fund 462?
I don't think I do. Should I?
Yes, in your operating budget,
Okay, Fund,
which should be before the
oh, I see,
463.
I see. Fund 462, Economic Development Tax. So what line item would that have been?
In the 2020 budget, it would have been out of, in the 300. I need my.
Oh, 441, Machinery and Equipment.
She said 462.
But 462 is the fund, but the line is 441. It says including lease purchase, capital expenses.
If you want me to be accurate, I'd have to look at what we did.
Okay.
I can't tell you from this is the 2021 budget, so
And the new vehicles that you're talking about with Ford would come out of where?
Ford 63.
how many vehicles were those?
We were looking at repeating the same number. I think the last time you bought vehicles, didn't you get 50? Right.
So what line is that under 463, public safety income tax?
It would be at, 44, 31, it's down to very, very low. Machinery.
Other building improvements?
No, $400,000?
Machinery and equipment?
Yes, the $400,000 that was pledged, yes.
So that's for 20 vehicles? Or 50, how many vehicles was it?
The overall, demand is 50. So I don't think they're gonna buy all of them at one time. I think they're gonna kind of break it up.
What's the per vehicle cost on average?
Equipment was about 38,000.
Okay, so that's about 10 vehicles there for 400,000. Maybe 11. Okay,
And Councilman, we have identified another line item in a different fund for that as well. And I please, we'll have to get back to you, but I know it's more than that.
okay.
I just don't have that in front of me, I'm sorry.
Just lastly, the Yukon XL, how is that being used?
What year is it from? It's not a
Or I guess it would have been after 2011 and before Mayor Karen's former vehicle. Under what department does that exist?
Yeah, when it's the police department there.
It's assigned to the police department, I don't know if it,
You say it was,
Well, general services using one of them, somebody's. I'm telling you, Stone Drive's one.
So who, under whose authority does that vehicle operate? It has police plates, I think.
If it has police plates, it should be under your
police department. But if it's not assigned to any,
department, within the police department, it shouldn't have police plates on it.
Chief of Staff, does that vehicle have police plates? The Yukon XL?
I don't know if it has it now, it did.
Okay. And who is in charge with its use, and how is it being used?
As I said before, it is assigned to the police department, I don't know who it is assigned to right now.
Does it make trips to and from Crown Point on a regular basis?
I don't know, I said I don't know who it's assigned to.
Okay, I'd like to know who all of these three vehicles are assigned to, the Ford Expedition, the Ford Explorer, as well as the Yukon XL. I'd like to know who's driving each of them. I'd like to know how they're being used and for what purpose prior to taking a vote on this budget. But thank you all so much for your service. I love all the police officers, especially those who live in the city, and even those who don't, who I know play a vital role in keeping our city safe. And so thank you for your service.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Inside the budget here, I believe it's the last sheet here, where I see patrolman eliminated. On the last sheet, it said patrolman eliminated.
In what fund, Councilman?
This is in the same Fund 250.
Right.
Yes.
We were able to keep some patrolman positions in that budget, but in order to achieve the cut, we did eliminate. I think it was about 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, it's more than that. I haven't
Most of
counted.
them have been transferred.
1, 2,
When you say transfer, you transfer to other
463,
agencies?
463,
Or to another fund?
Yes.
To get paid out of?
yes.
Okay, okay. So what is our max number that we're shooting for the police department to have? If we can be at capacity, what does that number look like? 200? But what's our realistic number?
We
Have
cannot
have we
fund
come up with that
200
number
police
yet?
officers. We can't fund 200 police
Right, I
officers.
understand that.
Right.
So what
Okay.
number are we really looking at to try to fund? I think we need to have a realistic number. What we need to really be shooting for funding the police department?
Right now, with what we have transferred to 463 and what's available at 250, the combined total is about 172, 170, somewhere in that range. but it's definitely less than the 200.
Councilman Godwin, you had questions about some vehicles that are, you said are going to Crown Point.
Yes, I've been informed that one of these vehicles, particularly the Yukon XL, is driving someone back and forth to Crown Point in various places, and I'd like to know for what purpose. I don't understand why a police vehicle would be being used in that way, especially if we're saying we have a shortage. So I think we need to know how all of our vehicles are being used. Certainly, police officers should not be doing work that is outside of the direct responsibilities and roles of the city of Gary. I like to be chauffeured around too, but I drive myself. So I think that we have a lot of vehicles that have been assigned, it seems to me, to the executive branch at a time when we're saying we don't have enough vehicles for the officers on the street. The cost of some of these vehicles, you could probably fund 2 or 3 police cars, right? So, again, I don't have a problem with there being nice vehicles that represent the city well to drive the administration around, but I think we need to know how all of them are being used, and they need to be being used legally, ethically, and appropriately for the purposes of the city of Gary government.
Councilman, we'll get that information.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
one last question on the vehicles. I know since I've been here, we have bought several vehicles. We just discussed at least 50 was done in the last round. I do have observed several of them have been put in the side of accidents, and I do believe we had to have insurance on those vehicles. What happened with the insurance reimbursement for those vehicles for us to get new vehicles at that time?
So it kind of depends. You know, the city, we're self-insured with the police department.
But I believe those vehicles, by them being a lease, we had to actually get insurance for those vehicles that we couldn't use the self-insured when it came before us. They actually had to have insurance for those vehicles. We couldn't self-insure those. Because I believe it's the same with the fire equipment, there with the new fire equipment we purchased, we had to put insurance on that equipment also.
Where the vehicles are insured, if they're under a lease, those vehicles have either been repaired or replaced. So the vehicles they're referring to are those that are self-insured, where we can't do that.
So, I'm asking, so we brought new vehicles and that they don't even know about then? Because some of those vehicles have been totaled. Police cars have been totaled, and I haven't seen any new vehicles.
I'm not saying we have new vehicles, but if they have not been replaced, then the lease agreement may have expired. That would be something I'd have to check. But we do have insurance on those that are
Right.
still current.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure, that those funds come back and replace those vehicles, and, there's no sense of having insurance if we're not going to put the money back where
I
it needs to
agree.
be. Thank you, thank you. I'm done, Madam Chair.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions or comments for the police department? Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We can move on
They may as well stay for support of services.
to supportive services.
And that's Katrina. 258.
Say again?
258, supportive services.
Oh, okay.
Did you get a copy?
Took the fan back.
Paper.
Fund 258 is the support staff for the police department. Actually, there are only a couple of changes, I believe, and
Is she
you may
here?
want to, pardon me,
I don't see her. Is she supportive services?
who, Katrina? Katrina Walker?
I'm
Yes,
sorry.
ma'am, I'm here.
Okay.
If it's me you're talking about, unless you're talking about.
I wasn't, you are talking about her?
Okay.
Is that who you meant? Oh,
Thank you. Man.
So, as Chief of Staff, Chief of Staff told us, there were some minor changes, that was made. And, one of them was for the special police, I think he went from 26,000 to,
34.
26,000 to 34,000. That was an increase there, by 8,000.
Make it nice. Goblins don't kill me.
That was the only increase of the overall budget. The only one increase that they, a lot more for the overall budget, that was really short. So, other than that, I didn't do any changes, anything, no one received any raises or anything. We actually just filled the 4 positions the last time we lost 4 employees, so we just got those filled as of Monday, we started Monday. For the clerk, clerk, progress, and, admin person. So those positions have been filled. So they'll increase the salary for those. So it will just be the same, except for that one, which is special position, $8,000 increase.
Anybody have any questions for the
Yes,
Board of Service?
Madam Chairman, I have one. Your animal control assistants, there are 4.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Animal control assistants, there are 4.
Yes.
These are actual, for lack of a better word, dog catchers.
Yes,
Do they all work the day shift?
they operate, which is, they go back and forth, whatever they're called. So it just kind of depends, they work days, it just depends on how they're scheduled. I don't control the schedule, it depends on how they're scheduled.
Well, okay, that's the question I'm asking. Are they all scheduled days and just on call in the evening time, or?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, we've done the Fire Civil Service Commission, so,
Any other questions? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
no, we're done.
Okay.
I do have one question, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Chief, what are we doing far as the reserve? I know we talk about police officers, but there's a lot of roles where reserve can pick up the slack in a lot of different areas. So what are we doing as far as reserve? What is our number? And are we moving to hire more reserve?
Well, I think there's a process now to add reserve as well as full-time officers. I think we're sitting at, I want to say 34, is it? With the reserves right now. And as you stated, they serve in numerous capacities. They're only required to put in that 32 hours a month. And we utilize them for a whole lot of things, such as things that you guys might ask for that you need done or what have you. You know, if like the most recent, the parade, we assign them to duties like that. Well, once they exhaust that 32 hours within that month, and we can do that in a couple of weeks, they're not obligated to do any additional time. We have some who just relegate their time to work in patrol for us, but it's very few that does that. And plus, you know, these guys got other jobs as well. It'd be different if they were only just doing it for us, but we use them when we can, as much as we can.
Have we looked at possibly paying reserve at a lower rate that will help us in our numbers?
That conversation has come up in the past, but we've never got
We
anybody
can't,
to.
but we can't pay them out
Yeah.
of 101-250 because they're not actual police officers unless they're working at that time. So they won't fit into that capacity.
Right. I remember, I think you used to have auxiliary police at one time.
Yes.
And I believe you had to stop using them auxiliary because we was not paying. I think it came to a point where we had to pay auxiliary. And at that time, I don't think the city was willing to pay auxiliary, so they went to reserve officers.
Well, we had to change their designation to reserve by state law.
Okay.
That's why we had to make that change.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't really have what they call an auxiliary officer with the authority that they have, you know, as working for us whenever they're on duty for us
Okay.
as police officers.
But it is possible to pay them.
Now, that I'm not sure of.
If you can find the funding, as long as it doesn't come from the police side, then they can be paid, yes.
And we've even talked about hiring part-time police officers as well. So that's something we might want to try to visit in the near future, if we can get some people that's interested in, like some of the younger reserve officers, you know, because we've got a lot of guys that up in age, but some of the younger reserve officers, we probably could switch over and get that done and pay them on a part-time basis if we could find the funding for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for supportive services? Okay,
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
and we've done the Fire Civil Service Commission. So we'll move on to the fire department.
Good evening. I am Charlotta Hunter, the business manager for the Gary Fire Department.
Good evening, I'm Sean G. O'Donnell, Fire Chief of the City of Gary Fire Department. Go ahead. So with our budget, our budget hasn't changed except for cost savings that we found in our budget. I think the City Controller, the Chief of Staff, Ms. Colvin made the notations about 463 budget where they transferred some more firefighters onto the COIT budget from before, but the rest of our budget hasn't changed except for savings that we have found in our budget. One of the things we've looked at, and I apologize because this is my first time doing this, we want to convert some, change some spots, not eliminate some positions to hire firefighters. So we have found that in our budget. So one of the positions we're looking to change is our lieutenant's positions, which presently we have 9 in our budget, and we are looking to change that to only 3 lieutenants. So we would change 6 of those positions to hire firefighters. And then we have, in our engineers positions on the 101-290 I'm speaking of, you'll see on the engineers page, it says engineer chauffeur, change to firefighter. That's 10 positions there. That would give us approximately 16 firefighters to hire, so you're increasing for your firefighters. So as we all know, public safety and the police chief, the deputy chief just said the same thing. We're working very short out there, all just because of financial distress from many, many years, not under this administration. And we're trying to be creative so we can hire firefighters and actually work safe out there in the job we're doing in the city. So, and then we had 4 other positions from our 2020 budget that that was not funded, but were in our budget. And if we had those 4 positions totally funded for firefighters, that would give us the ability to hire 20 firefighters. So we respectfully ask that the council would approve our budget so we could hire firefighters, which we desperately need.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I have a question.
yes.
You said that you will eliminate the lieutenants and keep 3 of them?
No, ma'am, it would be changing. I'm changing 6 positions of lieutenant to firefighter.
Just
And I would-
fire?
Yes, ma'am. And then I would keep 3 lieutenants in my budget.
Okay, you will keep 3 lieutenants in your budget.
Yes, ma'am.
And then the other 6 positions, you said you will make firefighters?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How would you determine the lieutenants? Based on their seniority?
No, every position we had to test for. We,
I have a question.
The assistant business manager, you removed that position. You're not filling that anymore, or what?
no, that position hasn't been filled. Ms. Hunter has taken on those duties of doing both the business manager and the assistant business manager's positions.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I wanted to follow up on Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell's question. So I know we have an ordinance that's before us, and I
Yes,
know
sir.
the Fire Service Commission did not vote for that ordinance. Now, I thought it was that we were going from lieutenants to captains.
Yes, sir. Originally, we did propose that ordinance, and just to kind of break it down, all my lieutenants right now, which are 7 that are working in fire suppression, are all going to become captains, whether they test for it or whether you based it on seniority, because they're already working in those positions. I was trying to make it easier with our budget, with reducing the full rank of lieutenants, which would be all 9, because all of them are going to become captains. However, because the union president agreed, but because some other people can't see the forest through the trees, we just said we'll leave 3 lieutenants' positions in our budget and just change 6 of them to firefighter positions.
So would that be a demotion?
No, nobody's getting demoted.
Okay.
Nobody's getting demoted. Nobody's getting harmed on the Gary Fire Department at all. I was helping people go from the rank of, after you promoted all of the lieutenants and my great staff out there, at my 2 chiefs and that, what we came up with, do you promote all the lieutenants to captain? Because that's what position they're working in right now.
Okay.
So they're turning into Miss Hunter differential pay to get paid as a captain, which is higher than the rank that there's civil service in. They're going to make captain automatically. And then what we were saying was, had we changed all 9 positions and just eliminated the rank, that those that are engineers, which are drivers, they would just been able to test for captain, because I don't have a bunch of double houses in my city that I need lieutenants for. So we're trying to find areas to hire firefighters. This is truly budget-driven to hire firefighters. Nobody was getting demoted, nobody was getting put out, eliminated, anything. And the union president was totally on board with it and agreed, but as he is the president, he does have to support his membership, and I understand that. He clearly stated his position at the Civil Service Commission meeting.
Just quickly, what was the concern of the union membership, if you could summarize it, being, not unbiased summary of what?
I really can't. I think they just thought they were losing spots and we were just shuffling people. I can't really speak to what their total concern was. I just don't think they saw that we were trying. Because my point, my whole contention was, why would I promote you to become a lieutenant when the position is actually a captain's position? So why wouldn't I promote you to the higher rank instead of the lower rank? That doesn't make sense. I'd rather pay. We're trying to give them the favor of saying, hey, why promote you to lieutenant when you're going to be working as a captain? So my civil service rank on the fire department is lieutenant, and I've worked as a captain pretty much my whole time as a lieutenant. I never worked in my position as a lieutenant. I worked as a captain. So I was just saying that for the engineers, but to keep any drama down or just to make it easy, yeah, I'll give them 3 lieutenants.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
So Chief, how do you distinguish which one will be promoted to chief, or were you saying all of them will have to take the test to move to chief with this budget?
To move to captain.
The captain?
They're all filling in as captains right now, so it's a matter, once we give the civil service test, whoever scores 1, and
So what you're saying, you only have 6 positions that you're gonna allow, and then the rest will have to stay lieutenants or something come over?
only 3 are going to stay. There's only going to be 3 lieutenants in my budget.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
Yeah, all 6 are automatically going to become captains. There's actually 11 captains positions right now in our budget. Ms. Hunter just counted today. Am I correct in that? So I have 11 captains positions. Only 9 are going to be, the first 9 are going to be lieutenants. That are going to become captain. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So,
They're going to test to become one?
Yes.
That's my suggestion, because I would come back and sue you, because I took the test for captain a long time ago, and now you're just giving it away. I didn't get the opportunity to just have it presented to me.
you're not giving it away at all. No.
Okay.
You wouldn't be giving it away and it's not being presented.
Well, that's how some people think,
Right, some people
Okay,
think, yeah.
so you
that-
might want to test everybody.
Right, it's not a problem with testing everybody, we didn't say that, but the thinking isn't correct, but, yeah, either way, they're all gonna become captains. That's what position they're working in now, and that's why I've invited the council to see, so you can get a better understanding of what they're doing. But I'll keep 3 in my budget and 3 lieutenants. It's not a big deal to keep 3.
So going forward, are you going to just work off this budget that you present to us, or are you going to still want to move forward with the ordinance that you have before?
No, I'm going to forget the ordinance.
Withdraw it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, and I really appreciate that being considered.
Yeah.
Just to make it easy, then we'll just keep 3 lieutenants in our budget.
Madam Chair, I have one more question.
Yes.
Chief, you remember you came to us before and you wanted an assistant or a grant writer or someone?
Yes, ma'am?
And we didn't approve it and you all removed it, but then you went back and got that person. Where is that at on here?
That, I don't believe would be on there. That's under professional services.
Under professional services. Oh, okay, and what's that title?
That's a contract, Councilwoman.
Just a contract? Okay. So what's that title for that person?
It's not a,
Consultant.
there's no
It
title.
would just be a consultant.
What's his name?
James Jarris.
James Jarris?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
And with this plan here, Chief, how many firefighters would this give you, like on this route here?
With this, say that again, sir. With this-
How many firefighters would you be able to hire on this route?
We should be able to hire 16 firefighters. Might be a few more. If you totally fund the 4 spots that we had in this year's budget, that would allow us to hire 20 firefighters. And that's 20 firefighters you're paying at a lesser rate. So we have significantly saved in our budget, trying to be creative, so we can hire.
And what's your total of firefighters combined?
Right now, there's approximately 165, and that's 139 in actual fire suppression. And then 20 fill in the other supportive services position of training division, fire prevention, places like that.
How many are we retiring this year?
We've lost, what's our number, I think? We've lost a bunch so far. I think we've lost 13 so far, 14 this year.
Big number.
Yes, and then we have about 5 going in the beginning of next year, right now, so.
Basically, you're gonna be back where you started at, really.
Yeah, this would really kind of help kind of just balance us out. We know, as the controller said, 200 would be a great number, but there haven't been 200 firefighters in the city of Gary in quite a few years, quite a few. So, you know, we're trying to work to be about 180. That, you know, it's not perfect, but, you know, we understand the financial distress, and there's other departments in the city that need manpower and things like that too besides us.
And how many firehouses are we operating inside the city total?
We try to, that's a give and take a little bit, sir. We try to operate with 7 fire engines and 2 ladder trucks, which is 9 pieces of equipment in the street at all times, but that does not always happen. So that,
And you
But
said
that
that's not
doesn't help.
always how it happens. What's the reason for that?
one reason is we have to it's roughly 7 people a day have to be, from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, have to be on vacation. As you know, we're an older department, so most of our guys are maxed out on vacation time. So that takes a lot of it, or that takes part of it. Then the other part, as you got to see in our office, is our sick time. You know, besides guys that earn compensatory days and things like that that would like that, the other part adds in when guys and girls take excess sick time. That factors into having stations open and things like that. So if we can, we try to run roughly 7 engines and 2 ladder trucks in the city.
And maybe in the future, I would like, by me being a member of public safety, if you would do a demonstration, we can black out the names of these individuals,
Yes, sir, I
And
did send that to you.
You did, but I would like to do it before the entire council.
Oh, yeah,
So
'cause we
can
blacked out
actually
the
see
names.
exactly what we're dealing with as far as the abuse of sick time.
Yes, and if you would like me to send it, or you can share it, because
Yes.
what we did was we just put firefighter ABC for all 3 tours
Yes.
that we work. And, so you and Councilman Williams, and I thought Councilman Godwin, because he's on public.
Correct.
So if you want to share that with the other councilmen,
Okay.
we didn't put the names, and I believe that was like
Yes, no,
a
you
million
did.
some dollars in overtime
Absolutely.
right there off of those gentlemen.
I'll do that. Thank you,
Yeah,
Chief.
I'd like to know.
Do they still have
Because
that
that's the-
90-day sick day thing?
Can you talk about the 90-day per occurrence?
Yes, yes, we do still have that,
Still have that?
the 90 days per occurrence, yes.
Because I still would like to know what happened to our firehouse.
Ask about that.
Tolleson Firehouse. I'll speak for you.
Yes.
Hey, I still want to know.
No, the Tolleson Firehouse, actually, we were trying to open that the last weekend. The problem is, and I just said it, I'm not trying to be facetious or smart. If my firefighters come to work, we can open all firehouses. You understand, we've roughly paid, I believe about, I asked Ms. Hunter last week, $1.1 million in overtime this year so far. That's a lot of money. And we want to have every firehouse open, but however, I have to close down companies and brown them out on a strategic basis. And I have 3 companies on the west side. That is the reason it's either Engine 9 or Engine 3 that get shut first. And it's all based on our strategic model of how to cover the city. And yes, that affects us. And to the same point, with the overtime, and Ms. Colvin's been wonderful to us. I'm not saying that because she's sitting up there, but she's trying to give us the overtime to help us. And as I explained to her, I'm beating my guys up because if something does seriously happen out here and I'm working firefighters 90 hours in overtime, that's going to be a problem if we hurt a firefighter. And when I have to answer in court, hey, why did this firefighter work? Or NIOSH comes in and says, hey, what are you guys doing? That's a huge problem. That's why I'm trying to get firefighters or younger firefighters. Overtime is not guaranteed forever. And I've worked this city for many years. I know what it's like for 23 years. And my guys out here, we've given blood, sweat, and tears. We're all old guys, technically, on this job. And we've given blood, sweat, and tears to know what it's like to work with 3 fire engines and what it's like to work with 14 fire engines. I came on this job and there's 275 firemen. So all the way up to the Clay administration, when there was a big infusion of money, we were able to have overtime and firemen, and nobody cared. As you know, Councilman, you've been around long enough now, that has changed.
Right.
And we're trying to be creative ourselves so we can put young firefighters out there on the street and give the best quality service, because public safety is number one, no matter any way you cut it. It's what people want to see: police, fire, streets, and sanitation. And then you build the rest of your city.
Have we had a conversation with the commission about the 90-day occurrence per incident?
Yes, there's been many conversations over the years. Unfortunately, sometimes, I think the commission sometimes wants to work with us, and other times I think there's other agendas, just to be quite frank. And that conversation has taken place over the years. Chief Jones, Chief Everett can both attest to those conversations long before I came up in administration. And that's what I've actually entertained with the union to come up with a policy. Chief Everett just was on vacation to say, hey, when he comes back, I'm going to give you 45 days to give me a policy that we can all agree on, the administration and the union, because I try to keep the union involved in everything that we can live with. Our biggest thing is we want to take care of our firefighters that get hurt in the line of duty, just like any city.
Absolutely.
Your firefighters get hurt in the line of duty, falling through floors, buildings, roofs, twisting ankles out there. We're in a lot of these raggedy buildings, and our guys are taking injury, especially when you got a vacant dwelling and you're trying to protect 2 occupied dwellings on either side. That's a taxpayer. And we want that taxpayer's house to stand. But my guys get injured doing that. We get injured. I'm still in the streets myself, fighting fire to this day. So I don't stop.
So, and I just want to explain for the rest of the council, so the 90-day occurrence,
Yes, sir.
whether I get hurt on the job or off the job, it still applies.
Yes, sir. So we have guys, anybody can get a doctor's note. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it. So you go to the doctor, hey, I'm off, come back to work, you work for a little while. Now, mind you, we only work 120 days a year, 110, I believe, 24 on, 48 off. And then you have your vacation and that. So now this guy comes back, he goes off for another month here or there on some other injury. Then we still giving him a vacation. So that's really what affects our firehouses. Firefighter safety is of the utmost importance to me, and like you said, we would love, I've invited every council person personally in this room, either through email or text, to come to the fire department, and I would be more than glad to let you ride with my guys and go out there and see what we're doing and spend some time, because that really shows you what's going on. And I think some of you know, you've been on many calls before, so.
Madam Chairman?
You're welcome.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Yes, a question. Chief, let's talk about vacations.
Yes, sir.
I remember some years ago where firemen were actually retiring out on vacation with excessive days. Well, I don't want to say excessive, but they had accumulated a large number of days. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
Does that still exist?
Yes, sir, and I'm actually trying to address that right now. It's one of the things I'm addressing, but yes, sir.
So what would you say the most excessive is right now? And I hate to use the word excessive when we talk about vacation, but what would you say?
I don't want to specifically say it's excessive because I don't know how they were earning that time, and I don't want to, that would be an unfair judgment of me to say, but we're trying to come up with an actual, I have an idea of a fair policy that I believe would be fair. Doesn't mean everybody's going to totally think it's fair, but I believe would be fair to do that. And that mostly only happens on guys that are on 40-hour shifts. It does, or have been on 40 hours and then we're back to fire suppression and have had all this time built up over the years.
So do you still, in that case, do you still offer a buyout of vacation time?
I believe the city only likes to buy you because it's such a huge payment, 1 or 2 vacations, because you also got to think how many compensatory days they may have on the book. So I believe 2 is the number that they will buy back from you.
Do they earn the vacation similar to the same structure that the city employees do? I think it's what, so many hours per month, I think it is?
No, sir. Our vacation is based on years of service. So we start out, don't quote me exactly, we start out with 9 work days, so which is roughly 1 month, and you max out at 16 work days. So 16 work days is 52 calendar days for a gentleman that is working 24 hours on, 48 hours off. So that's the max, 16 work days. So that's roughly a month and a half.
So with the gentlemen that are retiring, you said possibly next year we may have how many, 13?
No, that's this year, but I have guys right now that are retiring next year that are on extended vacation and comp time.
Yeah, that's where I was getting you.
Yes, sir. I have people on that right now that will not be off the books for the city of Gary until next year sometime.
So that takes away from your total of firemen that are available as well. Even though they're on the books, they are not
Yes, sir.
technically here
Yes, sir.
and won't retire.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We have to address it. We cannot continue to run the city like this and think we're going to have a second-class city. Not the way we're going. We're going to run it in the ground.
And I totally agree, and I appreciate that, because I just want to make it be known, so because it's public record. I'm a firefighter through and through. Long before I become a fire chief, I am a firefighter. So my heart is always with my firefighters, and I could be a firefighter in the streets at any time again. This position to me is not guaranteed forever, as we all know that. But I will do everything to work hard for my firefighters. But as we know, times, like you said, times have changed, and we are in a position because of many, many reasons, not just the financial distress of the city, but many reasons is why we're in these positions we're in today. And unfortunately, you have to be open to change, and some people within don't want to see that change. I believe most of my staff, even if we disagree at times, we come to an agreement because we understand things that have to change. You said it right. We cannot keep operating that way. And unfortunately, I'm the unpopular one that has to make those decisions, but I never make those all against my firefighters, because whatever decisions I make also do affect myself. So I would never do anything to hurt them. We're trying to do better, work safer, work smarter.
Do you know what your annual accident rate is?
accident rate?
Or, yeah, injury?
Yeah,
accident?
no, sir, I don't have that number.
Do you feel that you have any deficiencies as it relates to equipment?
We are needing some new equipment, but we're not as bad as we were a few years ago, no, sir. But yes, some equipment would be helpful. We've had that discussions because the city is very old. One of the things, I've had a great conversation with the chief of staff and the mayor, and that is a rescue truck in the city, because you have a lot of highway, railroad, hazardous materials transported through the city, trench rescue, high-angle rescue, machinery rescue. You have 700 Chase Street. We have 1 North Bridge. You have right outside of U.S. Steel, the factories there that are under us to cover. Machinery accidents. So there's many, many trenches. As you know, there's a lot of construction going on, road construction around the city, especially in the Midtown area and the West Side, for numerous accidents, and that we're really not well equipped to handle right at this time. And dive, it's been a huge thing, with water rescues out there at the beach. So we are trying to, with what we can, what I can do, to offer some things that we can take care of, because I can't always knock on the door. I know that. There's only so much money to go around, so we try to do some stuff in-house. But yes, because those are major issues we have in this city, that at any time, it's not a matter of when, not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. You get a bad train derailment, highway, Indiana Sugar's down here, somebody gets caught in a confined space. I'm not adequately set up to do all that. We find a way, and we make a way, because our guys, that's what we're trained to do. So we're not the only department in the country that works in the deficiency. So we find ways to compensate.
Right. Well, I want to take my hat off to the Gary Fire Department, you know, because I've watched you guys over the years, and one of the things I always go back to is the accident on the Gauntlet Bridge.
Yes, sir.
Which was the South Shore, where the tracks come together and only one train can pass. And that was a horrible, horrible accident with a lot of fatalities. And at that time, I saw you guys get in very efficient, you know, took care of business and got the heck out of there. And even with fires and things that we see, you know, I still watch the efficiency with your department. Hope I'm not stealing your thunder also, but I want to congratulate you also on the installation of the baby box. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Yes, so through an anonymous donor, and the council will be notified when it's fully up and running, we got a baby box, and it's installed in our new Glen Park Firehouse, Station 5 in Councilman Williams' district. And as you know, if you're reading the paper, a lot of communities in Northwest Indiana have a baby box. And they're roughly $15,000 to get that money. And from an anonymous donor from outside the city of Gary made that to us. And a construction company, 1-800-BOARD-UP, did all the work and installed it into the firehouse. And now we're just doing the alarm testing phase of it. And so what that'll do for, since Gary has some higher infant mortality rates, is a mother that is not wanting to keep her child, but not, instead of disposing it improperly or not taking care of it, the mother can put the baby in this box, which is all temperature controlled, and an alarm will, silent alarm, once they open the box, it's a silent alarm that will go to Lake County Dispatch, and then we have strobe lights in the station that'll go off, and then we will go and get the baby from the box, and then you go to the hospital, and then the mother remains totally anonymous, there's no fault nor anything, and that gives the mother a safe option. And you know, Crown Point got one last year, and within 30 days they had a baby in their box. So we get one baby, you know, as the saying goes, that's one baby that, instead of somebody putting it in a dumpster or doing something else, harming it, we've saved a child. So that was a big push of mine. The mayor was real big on that, and fortunately, we got an anonymous donation, and all the work and labor has been done for free. So that'll be an opportunity for the council to come out here once I totally know we're ready, set to go, to come out and be part of that.
Well, thank you to that donor, and I hope that we can, you know, in the future, get another donor or two to donate more.
Yeah, one of the big things, they like to keep it on the outskirt firehouses because you put it out like at #1 station. They like to keep it by highways, but out of the way a little bit for that anonymity. Somebody driving down Fifth Avenue, so you put it in there. you know, that takes away that anonymity from somebody, so that's why most of them
Okay.
outlying station.
Any more questions or comments for the fire department?
Just real quickly,
Yes.
Chief, you touched on the overtime for this year. I think you said it was
About
over.
1.1 mil, I think?
Is that where we are to date?
Yes, that was
Okay.
as of last Friday.
And so you're projecting probably 1.4, 1.5 million for this year, given where we are in the year, or
Yeah.
roughly?
Roughly. People are coming back to work right now, too,
Right.
so that slows it up a little bit.
Okay. And the budgeted amount, if I'm correct, is 500,000?
Yes,
For
sir.
21? So again, I guess the same question as I have for the police department, what is the contingency plan, not only for this year, but of course going into next year, where we may be under accounting for what our real overtime is likely to be?
And Councilman, that's why the fire chief wanted to convert firefighter positions from the engineer positions and lieutenant, so that we can increase the number of firefighters that we actually hire. The hiring process, I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Fire Chief, is a little less time than it is for the police department. So they should be able to bring more people on more quickly, and that should help us to address some of those overtime needs. We'll actually have people in those positions much quicker, so that we won't have as much overtime.
And is that based on the jettison plan or the new plan, in terms of the hiring differentials to help fill the budget hole in terms of overtime? So your initial option, right, was
Yes.
aggressive, right? That it was going to, I think, $450,000 or so would be saved, and then you could use that to hire a lot of firemen.
Yeah,
and
it didn't
women.
change anything. What I just fixed, where I said pull my ordinance, it just changed how many we could hire just by 3 people, really.
Okay.
It wasn't it's not, that's why we pulled it off. The biggest thing is, and to Chief of Staff's point, is with the commission, right now, we have firefighters going through, prospective firefighters going through the interview process. But I will say this, just as Councilman Brewer said, things have to change. And my staff can disagree with me, but we talked about this many times. If the fire commission would have a list at all times, it doesn't cost too much to give a test and to have a list always at the ready. So these young men and women right now, we've lost a couple. Hammond took one of them that was in our process because it's been about 2 years. So no other department in Northwest Indiana, and we're losing the same thing. Other departments are plucking from us. Boom, boom, boom. Taking our guys. We lost quite a few to Hammond. And one of the things, I don't have a list to pick off of because our commission doesn't give a test enough. You can have a list last as long as they want it to last, so that's for them to decide. But if they give a test quickly enough and have 100 people on a list, 50 people, whatever, then when I had vacancies, I'd be able to pull them up and just put them through the pension process. And that's the pension, the state perf physical. We'd have firefighters, and we could hire quicker.
So right now, there's not a list currently.
There will be one, right, but it's taken them almost 2 years now. They just did interviews these past 2 weeks. We gave the agility test for these members a year ago, September. So it shouldn't have taken this long. Now you're finally doing interviews and background checks, and I don't know what the problem is with that. I think we should have Gary Calise do our background checks.
So what's the disconnect, I guess? This is the fire excuse my ignorance.
No,
This
that's
is the
okay.
Fire Service Commission's
It's,
responsibility.
it's always kind of been that way. It's just things that need to be somewhat addressed.
Attorney Williams, please answer.
Yes, absolutely, it is the role of the Gary Fire Civil Service Commission. However, the police has refused to provide those background checks. That is in fact a huge delay in the process. We have been required to get background checks from outside agencies. Now, that was under the previous administration. I don't know the opinion of the current chief, but that in fact was that was taking 90+ days in and of itself.
Sure.
Just to get the background checks, when previously the police department would do it. Why they were refusing to do it, they had some rationale that I couldn't comprehend, to be honest with you. If that could change, you would greatly expedite that process.
Yes, and he's correct. But from when I came on the job, it took us just shy of 2 years. From the time we took the written test to the time we came on the job, we were just shy of 2 years, then. I know, I had talked to the chief of police about that recently. But it's also, and he did state it was because of something with the state level, but however, I checked with Hammond, and I said, what does Hammond do? And Hammond does hire, their police department does the background checks. So now, Hammond is not a civil service department, I don't think that makes the difference, but they do their own background checks in-house. And East Chicago pays a company, Safe Solutions, and Safe Solutions does their background checks, from what their chief told me. East Chicago is civil service like us, but a lot of it is we have to get out of personal agendas and want to work for the betterment of the department, as you said, Councilman, and, you know, just like with the sick time and things like that, it will take some, not all commissioners, I'm not going to say that, because there's some very good, but to work with us to really want to make these progressive changes. It has to be a together effort from all parties, and I believe Chairman Williamson wants to do that, so hopefully that'll come, but if not, that's where the council has to come in and step in and look at things, because it's all my stuff, it comes up to dollars and cents, budget. So we do have to change these things.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank
Are
you.
there any other questions for the fire chief? Comments? No more?
Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you,
time
Chief.
tonight, council.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Emergency management, that's only a couple of lines, I don't know who's.
Do you need to do this? It's the fire department. But it's all part-time.
I need a sheet.
Is that a part of? Okay.
They're trying to get me.
I mean, do you? You want them, you want to?
It's just a couple people.
Well, fire chief, can you do 310, emergency management? Or Shirley? Either one of you. Do you have anything to say about it?
No, actually, Mr. Jarris was going to actually, add part of his contract, work on redeveloping our EMA plans, because they are very outdated. I'm going to say how far they go back, and he is a master exercise practitioner with FEMA, which will allow us to also pursue some grants. So what, on that budget, his money does come out there, he's actually going to redo our EMA plans for the fire department.
Okay.
But however, I have many other needs too to work on. And so the council knows, Mr. Jarris did get us a $5,000 grant for carbon monoxide detectors, and through NIPSCO, so he wrote that, and that gave us $5,000 for carbon monoxide detectors.
Thank you.
Are we passing them out to the residents?
We will, once I get the money from NIPSCO and we put it out, because we're trying to do it for the senior citizens, we have to follow the grant to them. And it's going to try to be for the senior citizens and that.
Okay, let us know so we can announce it in our.
Yeah, we would do that. You're welcome.
Is that it, Councilwoman?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye.
Okay, vehicle maintenance. Did we just see you?
Yes, last night. Well, good evening, council, Madam Chair. I am Marionetta Barber, Executive Director for the Public Works Division, which encompasses, like I said last night, vehicle maintenance also. So that budget is 101,430. And the only change here is on the operating budget, there's no changes. Everything remained the same for the operating budget for 430. And the only thing that changes on the salary budget for 430 is a title change. And that was due to the mechanics. They had something that was called lead mechanic, but in essence, they're all the same. They all receive the same pay. So that's why that change is being asked for, to make it the mechanic. And the other mechanic is a tire specialist also, so that's why that change is there.
Madam Chair, do we
Yes.
have a person over this department now?
I'm sorry?
A superintendent over vehicle maintenance? We have someone?
Yes, that's Don Clark, that's the superintendent there.
What's his name?
Don Clark?
Don?
Don, mhm.
Any other questions for vehicle maintenance?
Madam Chair, I have
Yes.
one question. Ms. Barber, you know, you may or may not be able to answer this, but as you know, we got a lot of cars, salvage vehicles. Is there any plan for the disposal or the selling of those vehicles?
Okay, there is a plan to have an auction, but when we do the auction, what happened was they wanted to do one earlier. Now, I know the police have done two that they have done. In order to do the auction, what happened is we're compiling a list, because you have to have a list and figure out what funds those, that equipment or vehicles were purchased from. Because when you have the auction, say for instance, if it was a grant that helped support it, you'd have to make sure that that's taken out of inventory, and the fact that if it's grant money, that some of that money is returned back to where it came from. Mhm. But there is a plan to put the list together for an auction.
How many would you say we have total? Any idea? Is that too much to ask?
I'm sorry.
How many would you probably say, just a guess? I know you don't have it at.
I don't want to guess. It's quite a bit out there, yeah.
Quite a few. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Okay, I think you're on Tolman, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I'm on.
Finance.
I'll start with finance. After I became the acting city controller, I looked at the staffing and tried to determine how the staff could best be utilized. So what I've done in this budget for 2021 is to try to make adjustments so that every category of functions that the city controller's office has to perform has someone actually in those positions. So first of all, and I think it looks like I have the wrong version of our budget in here. Because what happened is I changed the budget to include a deputy controller. The deputy controller is the person who actually oversees the bank reconciliations and other, I'll say, banking functions in the actual office, and that's missing now. I also restructured the department so that there would be individuals who would actually be responsible for bank reconciliations, and that is going to be the function of the person's term, general accountant. One position was eliminated to accommodate that. Also, we looked at how to make the revenue supervisor and the accounting supervisor different so that those functions are not performed by the same person or the same two persons. So this budget, as I said, I can see it's not the right budget, and I'll be giving you the corrected version so that you'll have it.
Okay.
The other item, I guess it's 6 or is it 97? You have medical insurance listed. I'll just say in general, the medical insurance has, the health insurance has a rate increase this year of about 4.3%. So we have accommodated that through funding that's in Department 601, as well as the insurance fund as well. I think that's 791. So that's the insurance. We're in the second year of a 3-year commitment to AIM Medical Trust. So we have another year with this particular medical and this particular health provider.
It seems like they've been going up every year since we had them.
Most of them do. But what they did this time, they made somewhat of an adjustment, and they indicated that as they get history on a particular client, based on whatever your claims rate is, they make adjustments in payments, so that very well may go down next year, but we don't know. But at this point, we are at the point where it's 4.3% in terms of an increase.
I know we did earlier part of the year where we all had to come in, I guess, recertify, who was on our insurance was
Right.
the right person. Did we see any big change in that?
No, not really. But you do have to do that. That's just part of the process. You're talking about the dependents doing that
Yes.
audit? Yes. I don't believe there has been a big change in that, but periodically, that is just something that is required by health providers. In the past, when we used to have self-insurance, that was probably more important than it is now because, with a self-insurance program, it gives you a lot of latitude to add people who really shouldn't be on the insurance. And with a health provider that's an actual company, that's not allowed. So this process kind of eliminates, or it's designed to eliminate, persons who are not actually supposed to be on their insurance.
I have a couple questions. Are you still?
Okay.
Okay, I didn't know whether Councilman Brewer was still working
Oh,
on
sorry.
something. He had his finger like he was ready for.
No.
All right. Thank you, Chief of Staff and Attorney Colvin. You are like my first district neighbor, a woman. He's a man, but you're a woman of many talents who is wearing a lot of hats on behalf of the city. And so I want to thank you for your service, not only as Chief of Staff, but as interim city controller. I do have a few questions. One, how is the search going for a city controller? Two, how much have we budgeted, if we're going to continue to use Cinder and Company or any other vendor, how much have we budgeted for such services in '21? And three, to your knowledge, are there any former City of Gary employees who are working currently for Cinder and Company?
One, your first question was, I should have written it down.
Yeah, I'm sorry, how's the job search going for a full-time city controller?
The search is ongoing. We've had some applicants. I believe the decision is now being made to do a nationwide search. We've had only local applicants so far. We've interviewed some persons, but as you well know, and I'm sure the council is well aware, the city controller position, especially at this time for the city, is a very, I'll say, intense position.
Right.
That you have to bring a considerable amount of experience to bear. Certainly, without some assistance, I wouldn't, be able to do that. I don't have that background. Although I thank you for your commendations with regard to my position and my work. So that search is ongoing, and we intend to continue until we can find someone to actually take this position. I hope that before the end of the year, we'll have a new control.
Okay.
That's the goal.
And that salary, just while you're on that, is $60,529. Now, obviously, I know there's some coming from somewhere, or $61,529. How much is projected to come from Gary Sanitary District? And I know we're going to get updated budgets that will reflect all City of Gary personnel, both staff and elected, who are receiving payments from the Gary Sanitary District.
Right.
So what are we anticipating for the city controller?
I believe the combined salary is maybe 103 or something like that.
Okay, similar to the police and fire chief.
Yes,
Okay. So that means it'll be roughly 39,000 or so coming
Something like
from
that, yes.
GSD. Okay. And if I'm just quickly, the city controller who processes all of the payroll for the sanitary district, right?
yes.
Thank you. Second question was about the amount of dollars allotted for professional services. I guess, are we intending to still have, a substantial amount of the work as we continue to search? Hopefully we find someone at the end of the year. But what is being budgeted to pay Cinder and Company or any other company to assist with that work?
The work, the amount that has been budgeted has not changed from 2020. So, no, there has not been any change in terms of what has been set aside. In terms of what the anticipated amount of work that we intend to do, hopefully with a controller and a deputy controller in place, the need for an outside firm will be much less than we have right now. I'm assuming that the work that will Cinder and Company will be doing once the controller and the deputy controller are found is, number one, based on what those particular individuals dictate or believe that a consultant will be best suited to do, and not be involved in the day-to-day operations. So of course, that kind of thing would be reduced considerably.
So right now, we have 85,000, is that correct, budgeted for next year?
Yes,
How
that's for
much-
all professional services.
Coming out, and that would, so Cinder is paid exclusively, I mean, currently, is being paid exclusively out of the general fund of the finance department?
Yes.
Okay, and how much have we paid them year-to-date, roughly?
They had a $75,000 contract, so they have the balance from that point.
Okay, sounds good. And the last question was, if any former City of Gary employee, to your knowledge, is currently working as an employee or independent contractor with Cinder?
To my knowledge, Mr. Cinder has employed individuals that work at his office. I'm not sure I can speak to your question.
But to your knowledge, are any of those individuals former City of Gary employees?
They may be, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
A couple of questions as far as the pay raises here. Why are we giving a increase? I know it's a very small increase to the city controller, and we don't have one.
I'm sorry.
I said, why are we giving a pay raise for the city controller?
It's like $1,000.
Yeah, I know.
I was attempted to differentiate between the two positions. The deputy controller in the new budget was, I think it's makes 60. And if I didn't differentiate, it would have been the same. The prior salary for the deputy controller was 60. So I just set it at what it was before. And then there would have been a distinction between those two. I was trying to make a distinction between those two positions. But that's all it was.
And I just seen one that wasn't highlighted in this one. That's the person agent, but they did get an increase also too.
The only person, well, I'm not even sure. I think the accounting tech may be the only person that is not getting a raise, and those are newly hired people.
And financial support coordinators 2 and 1.
One of them is a vacancy. Well, actually, the financial support 1 and the account payable supervisor are 2 positions that are inverted. I have to make that switch. So in other words, the salary for the financial coordinator belongs with the accounts payable supervisor, and vice versa. But I'll make that change in the budget that I give you, so you'll be able to see it.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I, I don't have to go to another meeting for the school referendum, but I did want to ask a question, should I not be able to make it back before we conclude.
Okay.
It's not directly related to the finance budget, but earlier this year, we had a lot of conversation around the communications director position becoming a contracted position. If you recall, I think there was $30,000 that had been allotted, I believe, from January 1, and that would end June 30th. But there was a request that we would give an additional $30,000 out of the media fund, I believe. That request never came. So my question is, how are we currently funding the Director of Communications role? What line item is that?
The Director of Communications is working under an interlocal agreement between the City of Gary and the Gary Housing Authority. So a portion of his salary, I don't want to call it salaries, it's a contract.
Payments, right?
Payment, thank you. It's being paid from the Gary Housing Authority.
So we're paying him $30,000 out of the media fund, is that correct?
That's what he was paid, yes.
Okay, and so what is he getting paid for the remainder of his services for 2020?
From the Gary Housing Authority?
Right.
I believe $15,000.
So we're paying him $45,000 to fulfill the role of Director of Communications for a whole year?
The whole contract was the interlocal agreement is a document between the City of Gary and the Gary Housing Authority. The City of Gary agreed to pay $15,000 the Gary Housing Authority agreed to pay $15,000 for a total of $30,000.
So the $15,000 portion that's coming from the city of Gary, in addition to the $30,000 that elapsed June 30th, out of what line item is that coming from?
It was paid from 462,
And that's Fund 462?
yes,
And under professional services?
yes. But remember, you have the 2021 budget in front of you.
So for 2021, is that there?
No,
So do you intend to retain a director of communications for 2021?
I have not, I don't know what the plan is for the future for that position.
Okay. I will just state for the record that while I understand the administration wants to do what it wants to do, as we know, this was a budgeted, salaried position that would have ordinarily fallen under the residency ordinance, and anyone holding it would have had to be a resident of the city of Gary.
Yes.
My argument from the beginning was that the attempt to move it from a salary W-2 position to a 1099 position was a smokescreen to basically go around the residency ordinance for the city. There'd be no reason, I think, that he couldn't have been salaried other than the fact that he doesn't live in Gary. I stated then that the city spokesperson should not live in Gary. If anybody lives in Gary beyond elected officials, and ideally your public safety leadership, you certainly will want the spokesperson for your city to be a resident of your city. I have nothing against the gentleman personally or his company, but I am concerned that we are, one, going around the spirit of this council's ordinance by all of this scheming, and now even interlocal scheming with a federal entity that is under receivership. So I just find it problematic that we're engaging the housing authority to help us pay for our spokesperson. I don't know what Ben Carson thinks about it, but I think it's a bunch of malarkey. Thank you.
And for the record, I'd just like to say that Mr. Gonzalez does do work for the Housing Authority, and I think the way you phrased that suggested that perhaps he wasn't doing any work for them.
He may be, and I don't doubt that, but I also know that he's operating as our spokesperson, and it's clear to me that when this body refused to add an additional $30,000, there was a very clear attempt to go around the will of this body to engage a sister agency that is a federal agency to get the same thing done without our input. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
That isn't the only department that's done that.
Right.
The fire chief did it with that contract. Last night I asked Dr. Walker. I looked at the work history. Actually, she was unemployed for a while, so she doesn't have a continuous 17-year history, as he said. So, we've been deceived quite a bit this year. That's all.
If it's not the end, we will have another committee, none of this stuff.
Right.
It's not the end. Right?
And I would just reiterate that, as I said last night, and hopefully I get to come back before it concludes, that I would want to see a full list of all employees who are not in compliance with our ordinance, but I am going to be taking a closer look at these contractual positions, which are simply smokescreens, as I see it, to get around the residency ordinance. Nothing against the persons. I'm just going to be a strong supporter of those who work here, living here. That's all that's about for me.
And there was a time when when we got the budget, we also got names and addresses. We don't get that anymore.
Right.
And so I would like to see us get that again, so that way we would have it and we would already know. Wouldn't have to ask, because
It'd
it'd
be
be
here.
right there.
I agree, and I think we should request that of Attorney Colvin at our next committee hearing, or before then, well before then, that we are able to get that. And I'll just say lastly, that the State of the City address needs to happen before we vote on the budget. The excuse has been, I don't know where the finances are.
Yes.
You can't propose a budget if you don't know where the finances are. And you certainly cannot have spent as much as we have if you don't know what the finances are.
Right.
So I think that the October 30th date was given, but that again is an attempt to evade this body. We know that our last council meeting for this month, before the November 1 state deadline to turn in our budget, is October 20th. So if we follow the timeline, we would have already voted on the budget before we've gotten the statutorily required State of the City address. You know, initially I had said that we would not assign this to committee, and I got the agreement of the finance chair until we had a date for the State of the City address. We've been asking for that since late January. You might recall in February, there were councilpersons who asked, when is it going to be? Where is it going to be? How is it going to be? COVID happened, but that certainly has not stopped press conferences and other speeches and events. So here we are in October. And in September, I said, I will not assign it unless we have a date. Well, the date comes, and the date is October 30th, after we have made a decision on the budget. So I know I will not vote for a budget until the actual address has been given and questions are able to be asked of the mayor, who has not been present during these proceedings and has not been present at several of our most recent council meetings. And there has been no mayor's report or opportunity to ask questions before the public at several of the past council meetings. I'm not trying to beat up on the mayor, but this body must be respected for the role that it serves in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we've just got a couple more to go. Arlene, do you have consolidated operations? Is that you too?
That is the fund from which all of the city departments currently buy their supplies.
Okay.
That budget didn't change.
Madam Chair, one question real quick before we move, with the medical insurance, are we current to date?
Yes.
On payments? Thank you.
Okay. 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 So then we can go to community investment, whatever that is.
Community investment.
Yes. It's a lot of money, whatever it is.
And Councilwoman, I'll just say before they began, if you recall, when the administration did a reorganization last year, they combined a number of departments. They combined what amounts to the economic development arm of work that we had in the city. They combined the building department and code enforcement. So it was the Commerce Department, and the name has just simply changed.
Okay.
Good evening. Eric Reeves, Executive Director of Community Investment. The budget has not changed any since submitted to you. So
Pardon?
there's no changes.
Can you walk us through your budget?
Yes,
Because there's changes from 20 to 21, the 21 budget. So if you can walk us through the changes and pretty much walk us through your operations. What is your role inside the city?
I'm sorry, what did you say the last part?
Can you walk us through what your role is inside the city?
What my role is? Yes. So under community investment, it's zoning, planning, economic development, code enforcement? Planning, did I say that? Zoning, code enforcement. This is all under community investment, economic development, community development. So that's how it's structured. My role is Executive Director of Community Investment and Senior Advisor to the Mayor, and I'm currently acting Director of the Parks Department. So that's my role.
How many titles?
I'm sorry?
Tell me those titles again. You say you're Executive Director of Community Investment?
Correct.
Okay, and what else?
only planning, economic
No,
development.
his titles. You said,
Executive Director
okay.
of Community Investment, Senior Advisor to the Mayor.
Okay, senior advisor, okay.
Currently, I am Acting Director for the Park Department since April 1st.
Acting director, parks. Okay.
And you wanted me to walk you through the community investment
Yes.
for each department, or how, what are you interested in finding out?
Well, I want to know your actual role. How do you interact with these different departments?
So, okay.
Because
So,
we hear the titles, but we want to know how you
sure,
do
absolutely.
day-to-day. Yeah.
Yeah, so all the department heads are on the same team under the community investment. So redevelopment is A.J. Bittner, he's here. Community investment is Nita Rumpf. And I think you heard from her last night. Community development, I do. Zoning is Eric Boria. And planning is Greg Jenkins. So my role, how do I interact with each one? I meet with everybody either on a weekly or every other week to ensure and manage that these departments run smoothly and interact correctly. We put them together so there is a fluid operation for businesses that come into the city. So that's how I interact with those departments. I also do, there's one more, data and analytics and messaging, and that's the Facebook page and the web page, and I ensure that we post and message out to ensure that we're changing the narrative. We put that in because we wanted to change the narrative of what is out, in public now. Generally when you Google Gary, there's negative connotation, so we want to we try to put out positive things through our Facebook and social media globally. So that's done by Hector Alvarado, and I meet with him weekly also. We will have a newsletter soon that he and others will work on that accentuate the positive that we're doing in the city. So it's similar to what the GO team does, is doing in cleaning up different areas of the city. So my interaction is hands-on. If I move to the park department, I hands-on with them. I make sure I meet with them and speak with them every day. During the summer, making sure that there's policies and programs have changed. In the park department last year in the parking lot, we collected a total of $77,000. This year we collected $170,000. In 2018 we collected $25,000. So there's some differences in what we're doing. The beaches were cleaner, and we collected more revenue as a result. We are having classes with people who work with us on management that we hope to promote to management, such as the Hudson Campbell Center. Christine, who was a lifeguard, she got promoted to management at the Hudson Campbell Center. And currently, Raven Reedus is in a training program with me to possibly be the director of parks. In learning how to do, how to be a good manager. So that's part of, what I do. Make sure that, I do deals with economic development. So, but I interact with different department managers on a regular basis.
So you talked about the increase in revenue for the parks. Is that through cash payments, or is that through the new automated system that was put out there?
I changed the way we did things. We tried to go to exclusively credit cards. So I got mobile credit card machines. So we collect 2/3 of cash. I'd like to, and 1/3 credit card machine. I want to try to reverse that and go mostly to all credit card, because it reduces a lot of things. It reduces risk in many internal and external. So, you know, the percentage of collection, even with, you know, factoring in the Chicago beaches being closed, is quite dramatic, from $77,000 to $170,000. And had we not been closed for 2 weeks, our runway and KPI would have been up to $211,000 in collections. Our goal for next year, we're setting a KPI at 200, and that's a key performance indicator for 250,000. So we believe that we can really, with the parks, they become destinations, and you know, it's a revenue stream that will help the city to not only buy equipment but get out of some of the, you know, things that we're in. You know, I unfortunately had to be there at a drowning this year, and we had 6 jurisdictions, respond to that, and Gary had 1 wave runner. Everybody else had equipment. We had no equipment, nothing, and it puts us at a severe disadvantage with 7 miles of beaches and not have equipment to be able to do what we need to do. So some of those monies, you know, hopefully will go to equipment needed for, you know, the boots on the ground.
Madam Chair? Are you compensated any kind of way from being the park director at this time?
I am for right now. The total park director salary, I think, is $65,000. I'm compensated $30,000.
So my question then is, all of these titles that you hold are all under executive director, zoning, planning, economic development, park department, the $90,000?
Park department is not.
All under those departments, am I correct or not?
Park department is not. It's separate. The exact titles, again, I'll repeat them: redevelopment, community development, economic development, data analytics and messaging, zoning and planning. Those are under community development. Or community, investment.
And code and building.
Yes.
So is the park department the only department where you're receiving any additional salary outside of your original salary?
That is correct.
Only one. Thank you.
Okay.
May I speak to the changes that are in the budget in yellow?
What? Okay.
As I noted earlier, this particular department is a combined department, including various functions, including code and building. One of the things that occurred when the reorganization occurred is that some positions were eliminated that were essential to the functionality of the building department. There was an elimination of a code liaison, I believe that's what it's called, the person who coordinated code inspections. There's also the elimination of an office manager. The request is that the office manager position be reinstated because this person is going to be responsible for the code inspection coordination that had occurred before. There was also an error in the building commissioner's salary from the previous budget, so that $900 has been restored. Also, there was a error in the inspector 2 position. The inspector 2 and the inspector 1 were actually paid the same thing. So the change has occurred for the inspector 2. His salary has been corrected. And finally, one of the functions that is sorely needed in this area is a zoning clerk. Currently, Mr. Boria, the zoning administrator, is working alone, and he has no administrative assistance, and that is a very labor-intensive area. So he needs a zoning clerk, so that has been added to the budget as well.
Okay.
Ms. Coleman, you spoke about the change in salary for the building commissioner. There was an error. What was that error?
It was a $900 difference.
What do you mean when you said $900 difference?
The salary, the previous salary was $900. His previous salary was $900 higher than it is right now. In the 2020 budget, his salary is $900 less. It wasn't a reduction, so I just corrected the error, that's all.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Anything else you want to ask about
I have a
this?
question.
Yes.
You said that, Ms. Reedus is training to be the director of parks?
Yes, she's shadowing me.
Okay, she's shadowing you, so hopefully in 2021 she'll,
Yes, I don't intend to stay in this position past 2020, December 31st.
okay.
Mr. Reeves, what are the requirements to become superintendent of parks?
What are the requirements? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
To become the superintendent of parks?
I don't know them off the top of my head, but what I'm starting with is typical management of people. That's one thing. And what she does is she shadows me in basically, first of all, learning how to manage people correctly. I believe that, once you can manage and you're a good manager, managing different departments is, becomes somewhat second nature. But in our park department, because we have so many parks, we're taking it from a top down, looking at pavilions, making sure that pavilions are working and functioning, making sure that grasses are cut. So knowledge of parks and appearance is part of it. And then she's going to take, there's a requirement to be called a superintendent, of which you have to go to school. And she's going to take that test to do that. So she can be a superintendent, not a director. So, but there's a job description that she has to fulfill, and but I think that the biggest part is management, understanding and managing people, and allocating resources. She's in on everything that that it was from lifeguarding this year to equipment repair to we had to terminate someone. She's in on every piece of that. So there's a vast number. I can send you an outline if you'd like.
No, what I'm getting at is the superintendent position itself, it requires a certain amount of certification, am I right?
That's right.
Yes, to be called a superintendent. That's what I was
So, I
referencing.
mean, what all is entailed? Is that coursework? How much coursework is involved?
I know there's a class that she signed up for to take it, to get those qualifications. I do not know off the top of my head, but she is enrolled in the class to become a superintendent.
Did we open this position up to the public, or we just decided we were gonna choose Ms. Reedus?
I asked her to take the class. We still have to go through the process. She'll be a candidate. I said she's shadowing me now. She's going to be a candidate, because we still have to go through a process. No decision has been made yet, but I told her to take the class, which, she's doing on her own, paying on her own. So one of the things, if I can say, is that, when the position became available, I tried to look internally into somebody who already worked here, a young person who lives in Gary and who may be interested in the position. Certainly, there's been a lot said about, promoting people from within or people who live here. She lives here, has a daughter. Her daughter goes to school here. And I thought she's the perfect candidate.
I know Raven personally. I think she will make a good, but I'm just asking the question in general, did you advertise it? And
Yes, the job was advertised, absolutely. Yes, the job was advertised, and when we couldn't find anybody and summer was coming up, I said, look, we got to do it. I wanted to make sure that this summer the grass got cut, the beaches were okay, and that's how it came to pass. Yes, it was advertised.
what position did Mr. Jackson have?
He was, Mr. Jackson was the director of the Hudson Campbell Center.
Okay, okay, two different things, okay.
Two different, yes, that position, it would be under the park superintendent.
Just one bit of advice. You know, I've been a career manager in the public sector as well as the private sector. And just a little bit of advice, not to be critical, because I try not to be critical, but please make sure that in your training, customer service is emphasized, and how you treat people, how you talk to people. It's very important.
You're absolutely right. This administration believes in red carpet service, which is high, customer service. That's the name of the game. Whatever you're doing, whether you're giving a service or whether you're giving anything, it's high customer service. So I agree.
That comes with patience with people.
Patience, yes, it does. Absolutely.
I'm not getting customer service as a council person, so don't say that.
I'm sorry?
I said, I'm not getting customer service as a council person, Mr. Reeves. You know, we get ignored all the time, so that's not true.
And I think Monday, you talked about that, and I said that we would remedy that.
I wasn't just referring to you, sir. I'm sorry. We had that discussion. I was just speaking.
Just
out
in
loud.
general. I got you. I'm sorry. I was at the mic, so I thought you were directing the comment to me.
No. I'm just being.
Because certainly we don't want to ignore you.
No, you good.
No?
So the person that's shadowing you, is she getting any type of compensation also from the park superintendent position?
I think we just, she's my assistant, so I think we just started giving her some compensation, yes. But not in that position. She's been also, since I don't have an assistant, she's acting as my assistant also. My executive assistant in that capacity.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, is that it? Okay.
Are you going to ask me about parks now or later? Or I already did parks?
Just tell us about parks. You just told us about.
Okay, I know, but I just wanted permission to leave.
Oh,
Did we get all your positions? We got.
I think you got them all. And the team here is here.
Zoning, planning, economic development.
Yeah, director, acting director of parks, senior advisor to the mayor, and then executive director. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Reeves.
Thank you.
So, I didn't see redevelopment on here. I saw economic development. Are you redevelopment, or is he gonna do redevelopment?
But it's now time for IT. IT. IT.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
Mike
skipped
said
over
he gonna be
IT, I'm
here all
sorry.
night playing with us.
I'm sorry, is he here?
Yeah, there he is right
Oh,
now.
Mike is here, yeah. Mike, I'm sorry, I ignored you. You know I didn't mean to ignore you.
My name is Michael LaFleur. I'm the IT operations manager for the IT department.
Okay.
Okay, we did a couple of decreases in our budget. Operations other materials, we went down to, we was 10,000 last year. We increased to $29,000. Professional services, last year was 86,000. We decreased to 62,500. Contractual maintenance, last year was 27,000. We increased to 41,000. And machinery and equipment, we decreased that from 100,000 to 40,000 for this year. So we made a couple decreases and increases in different budget items.
Anybody have any questions for IT?
I just have.
Mike has,
new
Mike,
budget.
I don't have any questions for Mike, he does a great job.
Yeah, I've never.
I appreciate you.
Whatever you say.
You do a good job. I do have two questions.
Yes, sir. I'm ready.
What do your professional services go to?
I got a list right here. Professional services. We have DataMine that do our website. We have LiveWire that do the telecommunications, as in cables for for the couple of buildings we have NSI, that's our network support backup, and VST, that's gonna be our maintenance for different for the camera systems around the city. They do maintenance for that, so that's who we budgeted that for, professional services.
And your contractual maintenance?
We have CSO, they handle our RDS system, the finance system. Great Lakes, that's our printer guy. He fixes our little desktop printers and other smaller printers around the city. There's an estimated for RDS for chrono support, so that's still up in the air. So, and that's basically it.
And go back to professional service, when you said the camera system around the city, is that security camera system?
Yes.
Around the city?
Yeah. We see whatever we have right now. We just set money aside for them in case something happens, it breaks, or they come fix it or install some new ones if there's money allowed in the budget.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions for
That's it
IT?
for me.
No?
Thank you, Michael.
Y'all have a good
Thank
day.
you, Mike.
Right.
Okay. I'm sorry, I skipped over you. Redevelopment.
Council members, good to see you guys again in person. It's been a while. Were there any specific questions about redevelopment's 801 or 265 budget?
What happened to, you guys don't have a board-up technician anymore?
So we have in the CDBG budget, we have both the demolition coordinator as well as the demolition inspector. And the demolition inspector kind of serves that dual role. So that we'll continue to have someone boarding up. It's just that it's being shifted to a CDBG position. And the person that was previously in the CDBG inspector role retired this summer. So when we hired a new board-up person, it was with the intent in January 1, 2020, to move them into that position because the timing didn't work out to where the retirement with the leftover vacation and benefits, and we want to get this person in-house and working rather than delaying it, waiting for the benefits to pull out. So that's and you see in the budget that I proposed to the council, that's been articulated in the spreadsheet.
So you just didn't refill the position?
Exactly.
Anybody have any questions for redevelopment?
So by you being able to do the transfer, that's how you say you do the increase for raise, not change your bottom line, correct?
Say that again?
By you moving your board-up tech to the other budget, that's how you were able to free up funds to give the raises and not change your bottom line?
Correct, yeah. The budget for 801, you see a net decrease of about 500. The balance of the position that wasn't given for augments to the salary positions was put into contractual services, and that's about a $13,000 raise to the contractual services. So 801 net decrease 3,500 based on the savings for both PERF and FICA and unemployment.
Yeah, well, decrease, not increase, yes.
Right. And then what you'll see is an increase in the 265 budget, which is the other redevelopment budget, and it's an amount of, where is it? $67,000. Thank you, Arlene. And where that comes from, the city has an obligation for the landfill remediation, and this was the source of funds that, because we had an excess levy that previously wasn't anticipated, and that's where it was determined that we actually have funds in order to be able to pay this, what is it, a consent decree, or, yeah, the consent decree for the landfill. So it's not actually an increase in the budget per se for any operational things having to do with redevelopment on a day-to-day basis, anything to do with salaries or our costs, but it is our city's obligation for those funds to be used on the landfill. So I just wanted to point that out.
The city, if you recall, had a 30-year responsibility to the city's old landfill on 19th and Burr, and it's our responsibility to maintain the landfill in terms of the gas system that's there and any topsoil, that kind of thing. So we need a new gas collection system, and the funding that is in redevelopment will be utilized to, first of all, engage an engineer to begin to design that system. Then we'll identify funding for the construction of the system in 2021.
Yeah, because I often wondered why we couldn't do something with our landfill, and I see what they've done with other landfills in the area, and I wondered why we couldn't do something like Hammond or Munster did with their landfills.
They have, when our landfill was closed, the actual, I'll say, specifications were not as stringent as they should have been to support the kind of development you're talking about. So our grass and our topsoil are not the type that would support, just say like at Millennium, I think that's the one in Munster.
Yeah.
It's not set up that way, nor is the gas collection system correct. So all of these things have to be corrected before it would even be at a point where we could begin to consider something like that.
But the gas collection system is a starting point.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And I don't have any more questions about that. Anybody else? Nobody? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So what is 221 and 222 general services?
Oh, wait a minute.
What is that?
Those are,
I know what MVH is, but I don't know what the rest of them are. General services, motor
Dee's
vehicle
going to do
highway.
some of it, and then I'll take up.
You're back again?
I'm back. I'm back. Okay, so Mary Annetta Barber, Executive Director for Public Works Division, which encompasses also general services and traffic. General services being 222, 232, and then traffic being 223, 232. So what we need to do here is I'm going to do pretty much the salary portion, then I'm going to ask our Chief of Staff City Controller to help as far as the operational budgets. And that's because I had to go to her with to ask for some help with some corrections as far as it concerned the restricted funding. Okay. So under the general services budget, that budget remains exactly the same for salaries. There were no changes at all there. And under traffic, the change here with traffic was last year, they made a change to rename the traffic maintenance outdoor maintenance. And I guess their plan was to combine them with general services. Well, what I found is that didn't really work because we only had 3 traffic people and they needed to be out as it related to traffic. So that's why I'm asking for the change, to change them back to traffic maintenance. And I think it was a thing, somebody thought about cross-training. But there was some differences of what general services outdoor maintenance does versus what traffic would be responsible for. So for instance, if there's a case that comes up and a stop sign has been put up 2 inches to the left, to the right, and it's off, then it's a liability for us. And there just wasn't the training there to cross-train the outdoor maintenance to the traffic department. So I'm just asking that we just change the names back to traffic maintenance. They have maintained the same duties as they always have for the traffic department.
Madam Chair, I believe last year's budget, we increased their salary because we was under the impression that they would be cross-trained.
Okay, so Their salaries actually were not increased on the traffic side. What they did with the general maintenance outdoor salaries, they increased those salaries to meet, just the outdoor maintenance, to meet with the traffic maintenance. But nobody put any training money in there to train the outdoor maintenance to become certified or get the certifications for traffic. So it just wasn't there, okay? And then, as you know, we really needed everybody that we have on general services on the street for general services.
So our traffic unit only does what, just changing stop signs and putting stop signs out when we need them?
Everybody says that, but
Well,
it's
are
a
they-
little bit more.
Are they doing any type of striping? I know at one time we used to do the striping of our streets, and especially the walkways and things of that nature. I just want to know what else do our traffic department?
Okay, so our traffic department does the, like you said, the knockdowns. There's different signage that goes up around the city.
Yes.
They're also responsible for the streetlights. I don't just call Midwestern Electric out. I've dispatched them to actually check. Sometimes they're called out at night to check if a light is not working properly. Sometimes they do stripe and paint. So traffic really encompasses a lot more than people think. They actually bake some of those signs over there. So it's, and with 3 people, I know at one time, when I came on, I think traffic had 4 people. It's just, I mean, they're out there.
So do we do any in-house maintenance of any of our street lights, where it's changing the bulbs or resetting some of the systems
Okay.
that needs to be reset as far as traffic lights? Do we do any of that type of work?
Okay, so I remember years ago, and you may too, Chief, there was an issue with the union when it came to that. They're only allowed to do so much, okay? So basically, something that's basic with the traffic lights, yes. If it gets to be extensive, no. So what we can do in-house, we truly do in-house.
I asked that question because you know as well as I know, and everyone in here, we have several lights that's flashing, and we know because budget constraints, we can't fix everything. But one thing we can do is change bulbs, I would think, where these lights that normally will blink at least. Now, you may have some blink, some don't blink. If you take 21st and Taft, which is a very busy street, now we're seeing an uptick in people just running through because now where the lights used to blink at nighttime, it's pitch black, cars are going through, and sometimes it's just a matter of time before we have a tragedy there at that intersection and throughout the city. So I asked that question, you know, I want to know what more did they do, or what operation do they do? Because something as simple as a light bulb that probably can save someone's life instead of a traffic accident.
Well, some of that is not just as simple as a light bulb.
Right, I
And
understand that,
Yeah,
yes.
and I think that's why they came up with a traffic plan. And what they did was, I think last year they chose 17 locations to kind of work on. But as you and I both know, these lights are out all over the city. And even when I was in Public Works back starting in 2006, we still had issues then. So you bring forward 14 years, and that budget has not been there. You know, I'm always...
Are we still working that traffic plan?
Well, they did complete the 17 locations, and we will look for the other locations, but I had to go to the chief of staff recently and say, you know, we still need more money. They need the funding. And then I think some of their funding was restricted, and chief of staff will talk about the restricted funding, and that hurt us.
Okay.
Because it wasn't able to be used for what previously you could use it for.
Okay.
Yeah, I know I had at one point been calling the traffic department because of there's a store on the corner from me, and they've got a dumpster that blocks like the alley, okay? And so I was calling the traffic department to see what they could do to put some kind of signage there so that people would not park in the alley, so that you know, they would not block the alley and create a hazard. And I was calling the traffic department about it, but I don't know who to call now. It's
Okay,
it's
so-
just happening.
You can call me and I'll take care of it tomorrow for you. I will reach back
Okay,
out.
thank you.
What happened was they wrote out the budget last year. So when we came to 2020, there was no, pretty much other than the traffic, 3 traffic guys, there
Okay.
was nobody for traffic.
Okay.
So pretty much, you know, Rachel Caesar, and I
Yeah.
kind of handled a lot of what happened with traffic. Now, traffic, I'm handling right here in 105 through Public Works. We assume those responsibilities. We do have Vanessa James, who was with traffic before, that is back with Public Works, and she assists at a lot of that because she understands it. So I will take care of your.
Thank you very much. Generally, when I call Rachel, I can,
I'm sorry?
generally get a response, so that's good. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a question. Do we still have the, Ms. Barber, do we still have the capability in traffic to make our own signage?
They still do make some of the signage.
They still do, okay, because we have a few signs, I'll give you a list, there are quite a few signs that are down, and still have poles and things of that nature as well, correct? Okay, I'll get that information to you. Thank you.
Ms. Barber mentioned, and I'll just be very brief on this. Ms. Barber mentioned the changes in the motor vehicle highway fund. And what happened is in 2019, the state legislature passed new laws indicating that some of the monies that normally come to motor vehicle highway that in most cities have been using to fund their traffic departments, their street departments, that kind of thing. They require cities and towns now to divert some of that money into what they call a further restricted fund. And those dollars can only be used for construction, repaving, kind of preservation. They cannot be used for your maintenance, like potholes and that kind of thing. So that has actually put a dent in most cities and towns' budgets for their street department and their traffic departments because they're limited now in terms of the amount of dollars that they can spend. So in our case, we have had to reduce the dollars that are in the budgets that support the staff and the supplies that they need and increase the dollars that are in the further restricted fund. So we'll have some money set aside in 2021, about $200,000 that we'll be able to devote to paving, but that has been at the expense of cutting everything else. So I just wanted to let you know.
But that's just out of that budget there, the 200,000, that's not the wheel tax money.
No.
No, that's just MVA.
That's just MVH.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Barber.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, we've done redevelopment and the park department, right? Have we done the park department?
We did it.
So now, do we do fire and police pensions?
They usually come, yes.
Are they here?
We're
Yes.
ahead, we're ahead
Okay.
of this. Oh,
Okay.
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 All
We'll
right.
just go ahead.
Karen.
That's all.
Okay, we're ready.
I was wondering who she
Karen,
is.
she's the police officer.
I'm Karen Erickson with the Gary Police Pension. I know I normally don't come to these meetings, but I decided I probably should, mainly because of course, you have the budget, which what is included in the budget is payment to retirees from the 1925 fund, retired officers, their widows, and any children, if there is any, but there aren't any now. But they get paid from the, from that budget. Also, there's professional services, which includes a lawyer. I do get paid to take care of the pension, and also monies for police applicants, putting them through their physicals for IMPRS, PERF. One of the things, main reason I wanted to come is I know there's a lot of different council people from when I used to come. Now, Mary, yes, we go way back.
Right.
But I don't know if all the council people know that all the money that gets paid out to the pensioners, and that also includes death benefits, gets repaid to the city the following year. So of the $4 million budget there is, the only thing that doesn't get reimbursed to the city is the professional services, office supplies, but the majority gets reimbursed. Next month, the city will receive over $2.2 million from IMPRS as a pension distribution. They give the distribution 2 times a year. One may be May, it could be June. They decide when the first one's going to be, and they have already said that the second one would be in October, and it's 2.2. I could give you the exact amount if you want me to get my phone out, but it's over $2.2 million. So like I say, the money that gets paid out gets reimbursed the following year. And I think that's something the
Karen,
council should know.
Who is the police pension attorney?
Hodges and Davis
Okay.
represents the pension board. They have ever since,
Right.
who knows
Many years.
when. But actually, that law firm was named after a Gary City mayor from way back when, Mr. Hodges, or Mayor Hodges.
Okay.
Yeah, but, yeah, they've represented us for a long time, and they don't charge us a whole lot. And they do a good job when we need them, you know. So anybody got any questions?
Thank you.
You're welcome, and it's nice to see you, Arlene.
Nice to see you too, Karen.
It's been years.
Yeah, good to see you.
Oh, and just so you know, I've been the pension secretary over 30 years.
I know, it's been a while.
And I'm a retired Gary police officer.
Oh, very good, very good.
Okay, is that it?
So that's it. Actually, the fire pension is very similar. Johnson Rollins is the pension secretary for them. It's the same.
Okay. Well, then, if that's.
Did we talk
that's
about the
it.
fire and the police income tax? Did we talk about that?
The what?
We really did within the police and fire
Okay, oh, that was.
presentation.
Okay,
Right.
okay, I get you.
Okay, I think that's it.
That's it?
Well, if that's it, then thank you very much, everybody.
I thought they
Yeah. Attorney Williams, I want to ask you a question before we leave, real quick. Okay. See ya.